G'day, Chief. Welcome to the Chief podcast and this special episode, which we call the Mini Chief. These are short, sharp highlights from our fabulous CEO guests, where you get a 5 to 10 minute snapshot of the highlights from their episode. Righto, Chief. Without further ado, here is the Mini Chief episode for this week with CEO of Havas Red Australia, Shane Russell.
It is a really complex world to communicate.
Yep.
And we're just seeing one company after another score own goals with the best of intentions, a throwaway line, something taken out of context, a cause that's gone too far, or just not communicated well. Can you give it a bit of, I suppose it's got two parts to this question. What are a couple of principles that a senior executive should follow when they're thinking about communicating the brand and meaning and to the market? And maybe one or two examples of a brand that's really just bottled it, you know?
Well, unfortunately, there's no shortage of examples lately, and it's all being supercharged by, again, the fact that we're always on now, and there's so many channels to capture news. But look, first and foremost, we've got to stop for a minute and look at, again, if we're a brand that's trying to communicate our purpose to the world, first of all, it's got to be very authentic. You can't be out there and preaching something that you don't practice from the start. So there's got to be truth to it, but you've also got to understand your audience. And this will be key when I explain one of the examples I'm going to give you is you've got to understand, who you're serving in general. And it could be investors, it could be, again, your internal audience, it could be clients and customers, whatever it looks like, it's different for every business. And you also have to understand that not everyone has to like you. So don't try to be everything to everyone. So if you put those together from a starting point, and then you think about what are the things we care about communicating to the world, if we can do that in a way that's true to our business and what we stand for, and we do it the right way, sensitively, and we've tested it and talked to people, and you're willing to stay behind it and get behind it, then great, go with it. That makes sense. And, we've seen in one of the sort of most high profile examples I'll jump into, because I think it was the most consequential from a business and financial perspective, was Bud Light. And we saw this, close to a year ago. Bud Light for 20 years was the number one selling beer in America. And if you think about Bud Light and the brand in any way, you think about middle America, you think about football and nachos and probably mostly middle-aged white men drinking beer, and that's it. But they wanted to sort of improve sales with a younger audience. They wanted to be a brand that was much more inclusive and open and just more fun and light. So they engaged a bunch of influencers about a year ago, and one of them, right or wrong, they engaged a bunch of people. One of them was a transgender influencer on TikTok who's quite famous for documenting her life story and change and built this great following. They engaged her on a campaign, and it was picked up by some semi-right-wing commentators, and it blew up out of proportion to the point where you would have seen stories of Kid Rock shooting his gun at cans of Bud Light and everyone boycotting the brand. And it dropped immediately in sales and is now no longer even close to the top beer brand in the US. And it caused billions of dollars of sales losses, and on and on and on it's gone. I think the intentions they had were great. Trying to show inclusivity and engaging an audience, a younger audience through social. It ticked most of the boxes. But what I would say there is perhaps from an audience perspective, it needed more, investigation before it went live. And I don't think right or wrong. Again, the intentions were great. It's just more that, you saw the consequences of something going into the wild where it becomes out of your control. And I think a lot of businesses have seen that and learned from it, despite many still making mistakes. But I think that's it, is it makes you evaluate now is, there's a risk and reward even to trying to do the right thing.
One of the things that you're talking about here is the complex mix of stakeholders, from clients, company owners, boards, community groups, governments, a range of actual customer groups and profiles. This is really, really complex.
Yeah.
So for organisations that won't ever work with Havas Red for whatever reason or another, what are some of the questions they really should be asking themselves to not score an own goal?
Yeah, and look, I think the majority of the own goals we've seen here in Australia and overseas haven't been as much tied to product or sales or the core of their business, right? It's been about representing something or talking to a new audience or standing for something. And I think that's where we've seen most of the mistakes happen is they've kind of, branched out from whatever the core service or product is they provide. But I think if you're a business that's looking at this landscape and going, is it just safer for me to be quiet? I think what I would do is if you aren't doing much of a communications or PR sort of push externally, I would start with the core business. I mean, ultimately, we're customers because we love the product or the service. And we're loyal over time because you continue to delight me through customer service and innovations and all the great things, right? And then over time, I started to love the brand because it stands for something that I believe in and it makes me feel good in the times that I use the product. So you think about the evolution of a customer. So I would say if you're a business that doesn't engage in much externally, start there. Start with talking about and engaging the people that love your business or product or brand. Communicate to them through all the channels that are available, not just the traditional PR release that people think is what PR is, but talk to them in wherever they touch a brand, online, in-store, socials, etc., and build a base out of that. And then over time, if you're ready to take a stand on social issues or other causes that are, that mean a lot to you and the brand, really evaluate the audience and really evaluate, the good and the bad of what could come from taking a stance. Understanding that not everyone's going to agree with you, and are you okay with that?
Righto, Chief. There you have it for this week with our mini Chief episode. All the links and resources for this episode can be found at chiefmaker.com/317. And if you'd like to stay in touch with Chief Maker, just go to chiefmaker.com/subscribe. Chief, one of the core skills of all great chiefs is the ability to interview and recruit the very best performers to your team. Now, many chiefs say to me that they get up to 25 or even 40% of their recruitment decisions wrong. Now, many of you who listen to this show will know that over the last 6 years, we have asked dozens of CEOs what is their number one interview question when recruiting for senior roles. What we have done is turn that into an invaluable resource. It is the 30 most powerful interview questions used by CEOs to hire high performers. These are the questions that reveal the true nature of the person in front of you. They are the ones that give or create that truth-telling moment that will help you decide whether to hire or not. Chief, if you want this resource, just go to chiefmaker.com/interview and just pop in your details and download the detailed PDF. Righto, Chief. As always, remember to stay